allowed to read one book per year.
Only.
And they have a form of reading they call Lectio Divina, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, rather than reading these scriptures as a catechism, that the way to approach it is to read it in that sense of Lectio Divina. That is to say, allow it to act on you, and really go deeply into it, and not take it as as something literal or as a catechism that you have to believe every point of it. But allow it to go deep
with meanings that are sort of implicit and that will come out through reflection and meditation.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe so, but it seems that the text isn't, as it presents itself, is intended to be taken literally. But I still have to say I find some problem taking it very literally, at least with some of the claims. It's not that I have any problem with the idea of rebirth itself. I'm not in any way, like some of you might know of Stephen Batchelor, who just rejects the idea of rebirth. He says that this was just part of the Indian cultural baggage that the Buddha was taking on. And now that Buddhism comes to the West, we have to drop this Indian cultural baggage. I mean, I accept the teachings of rebirth and karma, the different realms of existence, more or less, as they come down in the text. But sometimes claims seem to be a little strong. Let me see, there's a question coming from the internet. The Buddhist view regarding the gospel of prosperity. Prosperity is good karma. I think he means the fruit of good karma. Poverty is the fruit of bad karma. Moderation, simplicity, even an extremely frugal lifestyle is a virtue, but not self-mortification. Yeah, these are good points. Though, again, a little problem would come up here if one takes the Buddhist doctrine of karma and its results very literally and as a very strict law. So, prosperity is the fruit of good karma, and that one leads a life of moderation, simplicity, because one doesn't have obsessive needs for material or hedonistic enjoyment. And so that is a virtue and is creating wholesome karma. Then as a result of that wholesome karma, one gets reborn into prosperity, and then one gets burdened with all of the luxuries, comforts, and conveniences that one gave up to live a life of simplicity and moderation. And if one still preserves in the mind that mental formation of moderation and simplicity, then one could dwell amongst the luxuries detached from them and perhaps simplify one's lifestyle. But if that seed of self-indulgence is still strong in the mind, then one gets reborn into the life of luxury, comfort, and convenience. One might think, to hell with this moderation and simplicity. That's for simple-minded suckers. I'm going to enjoy myself now. Anyway, this taken up on its own merits is a good point. Well, these are two people. Okay, one person has a comment. Suffering can bring about a high degree of spiritual awareness and appreciation. Yes, of course, this is actually true. if one gets reborn under very favorable conditions, living a life of comfort, convenience, luxury, very often one could just be sort of seduced or swept away by all of those conveniences and doesn't experience any kind of spur to renunciation, towards effort, towards liberation. But it's when one experiences suffering, not really debilitating, oppressive suffering, but a moderate degree of suffering, that one comes to understand, we say, the suffering that is always underlying our existence from moment to moment. And so suffering is the spur to faith, to practice, to liberation. Okay, another person says, it seems that the Buddhists should not deliberately seek pain and suffering, but if suffering is a result of past karma, one should deal with it calmly, reflect on it, and learn the lesson with equanimity. Yes, good comment. In the Bible, God always favors the poor, so I don't know. Is there more to that question?
Seems like he knows who you are. It's the last statement he has. Seems like he knows who you are.
Oh, God knows who the person is.
Yeah.
Yeah, in a way, say the biblical God is doing service for what in Buddhism, the law of karma, that you can't deceive God, but according to Christianity, and the Buddhists would say, one can't deceive the law of karma. So one gets the results that accord with one's actions, with one's inner mental state, not with one's external sort of hypocritical displays of piety. Any further comments? Questions? I said I would take on 2 suttas today.
I'm saying I'm confused because Buddhists say that the sense gates are the spur for consciousness and awareness. Without sight, you have no idea.
Better that you take the microphone so everybody can hear.
Thank you. But consciousness depends on the 5 sense gates and the mind. But after the dissolution of the body, what is there to be sensing these other realms?
Okay, that's a good question, but I'm just trying to think whether we're going to have a sutta that will bring up that question, because it requires a more detailed answer. But I did actually deal with that question.
Yeah.
Who's taking you to Argentina, to Europe, to the Bahamas? You know, even if you go to these far-off places, we're on the internet. But if you look, I think I did, was it in this class that I did Sutta number 38?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Look in Sutta, the backlog of recordings on, it will be on Yu Rong's website, and also on the Chuang, actually on the Chuang Yin, the Bao's website, Buddhist Association of the United States. The past recordings from the Majjhima Nikaya, Sutta, the lectures on Sutta number 38. I dealt with that at the retreat. Okay, I'm just going to go through like a quick outline of Sutta number 46. Just the main points. I can't deal with it at length. Okay, we come to chapter, or section 2. So, for the most part, beings, here we can understand people, have the wish that they would like undesirable things to diminish and desirable and agreeable increase for them. But even though they have this wish, for the most part, disagreeable things increase for them and agreeable things diminish. So this is like, sometimes it can be stated most succinctly that even though people yearn to be free of suffering and yearn to find happiness, but for the most part they're constantly meeting with suffering, and real happiness proves to be very evasive. And so then the Buddha asks, what is the reason for this? The monks say, you explain, you're the teacher. And so the Buddha then takes first the case of the ordinary person, the uninstructed worldly person, who doesn't know what things should be cultivated and what things should not be cultivated. And so because he doesn't understand this, he cultivates the things that should not be cultivated and does not cultivate the things that should be cultivated. In other words, he doesn't follow the right and wrong courses of behavior, and so he does those things, behaves in those ways that produce suffering, and doesn't undertake those types of action that lead to happiness. In contrast, the wise, instructed, noble disciple knows what things should be cultivated and what things should not be cultivated, and so he cultivates the things that should be cultivated and doesn't cultivate the things that should not be cultivated. And he does not cultivate those things that shouldn't be cultivated. As a result of this, then the undesirable things diminish for him and the desirable things increase. Okay, then the Buddha introduces the 4 ways of undertaking things. In their combinations, permutations, they're the same as in the previous sutta, but they'll be elaborated differently. But rather than explain them explicitly, the Buddha just fills in by saying that the ignorant person who doesn't understand all of these distinctions, he cultivates the way that is painful now and ripens in pain, and he cultivates the way that is pleasant now and ripens in pain. And because he cultivates these 2 ways, then the undesirable things arise for him. The reason is because he doesn't see and doesn't understand. Okay, now taking together paragraphs 8 and 9. Okay, again, it's the ignorant, deluded person, doesn't know the way of undertaking things that's painful now and that's pleasant now, but that ripen in happiness in the future. So since he doesn't have that understanding, he doesn't undertake those 2 courses, the way that's painful now, the way that's pleasant now, which both ripen in future pleasure or happiness. In contrast, the wise person understands all of these distinctions, and so whether a course of action is painful now or pleasant now, if it ripens in future pain, he'll avoid it. Whether it's painful now or pleasant now, if it will ripen in future happiness, he will undertake that way of action. And so this is because this person is wise and has ripe understanding. Okay, then the Buddha explains the 4 ways, a little differently from in number 45. First, the way that's painful now and ripens in the future is pain. Here, somebody with pain and with suffering violates the 10 courses of wholesome action, or he undertakes the 10 courses of unwholesome action. Killing living beings, stealing, sexual misconduct, false speech, malicious speech, harsh speech, gossip, covetousness, ill will, and wrong view. And so because of undertaking the 10 courses of unwholesome action, whether with pain or pleasure in the present, as a karmic consequence, those 10 courses of unwholesome karma will bring a rebirth in the state of deprivation and an unhappy destination in the lower worlds, even in hell. So those are the ways of undertaking things that are painful now or pleasant now, the next one pleasant now, but they ripen in pain in the future. Okay, the next 2 courses of behavior, the 3rd and 4th, the actual ways of behavior are the same. Abstaining from, or following the 10 courses of wholesome action. Abstaining from killing, stealing, sexual misconduct. Abstaining from falsehood, divisive speech, harsh speech, idle chatter. Having a mind without covetousness, a mind without ill will, holding right view. In one case, one engages in these 10 types of behavior with pain and with misery. In the second case, one does so with joy and happiness. But both, whether one has pain or pleasure, when one engages in them, one is practicing the 10 ways of wholesome karma. And so when that karma ripens, it will bring pleasure and happiness in the future, rebirth in a happy destination, even in the heavenly world. Okay, then to illustrate each of these ways, the text gives 4 similes, 1 simile for each type of behavior. The first is to illustrate the way that is painful now and results in pain or misery. This is one way that I always think to make a distinction, what was spoken by the Buddha, what was not. But when it comes to these very vivid, very lucid, very striking similes, often I get the sense this has to come from the Buddha himself. I could be wrong about that, but there's something so, say, sparkling and illuminating about the similes that I'm willing to ascribe this directly to the Buddha. So here, this is to illustrate the way which is painful now and results in future pain. There is a bitter gourd with, I guess, the juice in this gourd, and it's mixed with poison, and a man comes along who wants to live, not to die, wants pleasure, doesn't want pain, and they tell him this bitter gourd, its juice is mixed with poison, you can drink it. If you do so, you'll find the taste, scent, color disagreeable, and after drinking it, you might die or experience deadly suffering. And so he drinks it, he doesn't reflect, and as he drinks it, he finds it has a bad taste, bad scent, and then he dies or meets with deadly suffering. So that's the way of undertaking things that's painful now and ripens in future pain. The next one, we have a bronze cup with a beverage that has a good color, scent, and taste, and it's mixed with poison. The man comes along, people say to him, this beverage, it has a good color, scent, and taste, but it's mixed with poison. You can drink it if you wish. If you drink it, you'll enjoy the taste, but you might die or meet with deadly suffering. So the man doesn't pay attention to their warning. He drinks it, he enjoys the taste, but later he gets sick and he dies or gets very sick. Okay, third case, this is the way which is painful now, but issues in future happiness. Here there is fermented urine. This is cow's urine, which was in India, was regarded as a very potent medicine. And it's mixed with various medicines, different herbs. If you don't like the idea of drinking urine, you could think of any typical, if any of you have taken Chinese herbal medicine, you know that it usually has a very bitter taste. So a man comes along with jaundice, and they say to him, this fermented urine, it's mixed with various herbs, herbal medicines. Drink it if you want. When you drink it, you'll find the taste disagreeable. But after you drink it, after some time, you'll get well. And so he drinks, he reflects on these choices, and then he decides to drink it. And as he drinks it, he finds the taste bitter, disagreeable. But after he drinks it, sometime later, he recovers from his illness. So that's the way that is painful now, but ripens in future happiness. Okay, then there's another drink consisting of curd with honey, ghee, and molasses mixed together. And then a man comes along with dysentery, and they tell him, here is this drink. You can drink it. If you drink it, you'll find it very pleasant to taste. It's very agreeable. And after drinking it, you'll recover from your illness. And so he drinks this beverage of curd, honey, and so forth. He enjoys the taste. And after some time, he recovers from his illness. And so then the Buddha concludes by saying, again with another simile, he says, just as in autumn, in the last month of the rainy season, maybe this will be like October, you know, when the summer heat has come to an end and the sky is very clear, dark blue, free of clouds, and you see the sun rising above the horizon, dispelling all the darkness as it shines, beams, and radiates. So too, the way of undertaking things that is pleasant now and ripens in the future as pleasure dispels with its beaming, with its shining and beaming and radiance, any other doctrines whatsoever of the ordinary recluses and Brahmins. Okay, and that's a quick rundown of Sutta number 46. Okay, any questions or comments on this sutta? Oh, they make a very delicious drink. Yeah. Well, at least it's good. I say that it's a very pleasant drink, very sweet and rich, that it has the medicinal properties of dispelling dysentery that I don't know. Perhaps it does. But there's a kind of sweet that they make in Southeast Asia to offer to monks in the afternoon or evening. Because there are 4 things which are considered allowable in the afternoon. It's oil, usually it's sesame oil, butter, honey, and molasses. Bees, honey, and molasses, or it's a kind of syrup that comes from a palm tree. Or they can use sugar, actual sugar. And then they mix it together and they put them into bottles and they give it to monks. just so sweet. I've had it just a few times and I don't really like it. It's too sweet for me. But they call it medicine, but I can imagine that it will be the cause of heart illness and diabetes for many lives.
In the 4 ways of undertaking these, there are 2 that lead to the heavenly realms or...
Yeah.
There are 2 ways.
There are described 2 of the 4 ways of leading to a good outcome. And in the last paragraph, he singles out only one of the 2 ways.
Yeah.
Is there, do you have some understanding of a reason for singling that one out as opposed to the other, seems like more difficult path?
I'd say probably because a positive value is given to pleasure or happiness even here and now. And so, because this way is pleasant now, it's superior to the way which is painful now. But really, I would say that the course which is pleasant now and brings pleasant results, or let's say the choice between the 3rd and 4th, don't depend upon the actual decisions that a person makes about how to behave, but they depend upon a person's intrinsic character, the basic temperament that they bring to their actions. And so that is not really a choice which is open to the person, except perhaps by reflection one could realize the benefits of doing wholesome deeds, and then that will bring joy to the mind as one engages in them. But one thing that's interesting, I thought this was a point you're going to bring up, is that the sutta doesn't mention a course which goes beyond a pleasant rebirth to the stages of enlightenment and liberation. But this would be either of the 2 ways that involve the 10 courses of wholesome action. In Sutta number 41, which we did, I think, last week, the text says, if one wants to, aspires to be reborn in any of these celestial realms, Brahma realms, formless realms, one has to engage in the 10 courses of wholesome action. And if one aspires to reach the liberation of mind without clinging, again, one has to engage in the 10 courses of wholesome action. It doesn't, actually, the idea of paramis comes after the age of the Nikayas, but it's the 10 courses of wholesome action: avoiding killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, abstaining from false speech, divisive speech, harsh speech. You'll see them in Sutta 41. Any further questions? Anything new on the internet? Okay, then we'll end now. Today we actually have to give up this space to the group that's downstairs, so we won't have a discussion.